Hey there, Salesforce enthusiasts. Welcome back to our channel Trailhead Ranger NJ. And today we are diving deep into the heartbeat of LWC development, that is the life cycle hooks. You might have probably heard about it, even work on those. So in our video, we'll be digging deep to understand how these works and when should we use it. We'll be looking example of these as well. So have you ever wondered that how to perfectly time your components actions? So if you have wondered and you want to know the answer, so you should stick around because we have got examples, tips, and even best practices lined up for you. So life cycle hooks are like the secret source of LWC, that they control what happens, when it happens, and why it happens. Whether you are initializing data, handling events, or even cleaning up resources, these hooks are your ultimate toolkit. So by the end of this video, you'll not only understand the purpose of each lifecycle hook, but also how to leverage them for high performance and maintainable components. So trust me, you don't want to miss this. So let's get started with this. So what exactly is life cycle hooks? So life cycle hooks in Lightning Web components we use, which form the foundation of clean, scalable and efficient code, and it lets us control our components interactions with the DOM, browser and Salesforce backend. So what exactly this line means is it will help you to control the flow whenever your code will be running, that in which sequence it is running, whether you want to take action on DOM, browser or on Salesforce backend, and in what sequence. So it will help you in that. So it significantly impact your performance, data handling and overall the user experience as well. So we can say that these life cycle hooks are key for crafting clean, maintainable code, enhancing component performance, and delivering seamless and user-friendly experiences. So let's move forward. Now, when should we include these life cycle hooks? So till now you might have got the gist that we want to control our code sequence, that which line or which action should be running when. So it provides method that allow us to hook your code up to critical events in a component's life cycle. Life cycle is simple term, that is the cycle of that LWC component we want to follow. So these events included whenever a component is being created, or it is being added to the DOM, or it is being rendered in the browser, or if it's encountering any errors, or if it is being removed from the DOM. So these are the events when a component will be following any of the LWC's lifecycle hooks. So these you need to remember, that which we'll discuss further, like which event will be occurring on which lifecycle hook. We'll even check out the brief example as well. And please pardon my voice, I am having a cold. So yeah, let's move forward. What all life cycle hooks do we have? We have constructor, connected callback, rendered callback, disconnected callback, and error callback. Now we will learn each one's flow, like after which life cycle hook which comes up, and what procedure does the LWC follows, or if in one single rendering, or whenever the LWC is getting loaded, if all of these 5 lifecycle hooks get run or not. So let's move on. So now we'll talk about the lifecycle flow. So this is the lifecycle flow. You can pause the screen and try to read it by your own as well, and or maybe try to understand it, and I'll be making you understand now. So at first is constructor. The first the first life cycle hook is constructor. So this is the flow which we are talking between, if we are having two components, that is one is the parent and one is the child, and we have written some code in parent LWC as well as in the child LWC. So we are wondering now if the constructor in the parent will be called first, or if the constructor in the child will be called first. First of all, first question you might be having, do we have all the life cycle hooks in each and every LWCs, like whether it will be in parent or whether it will be in child or it will be in both? So LWC only defines that yes, all the life cycle hooks will be occurring in all LWCs. Based on the events, definitely, that is either it is being created or adding to the DOM, or if we are rendering it. So it will depend on the event, but yes, each LWC will have the power to go through each life cycle hook. So now we are talking about the steps it will follow between parent and child component. So first of all, in parent component, our constructor life cycle hook will be called. Then there will be public property pending on the parent. Public property is nothing but any property or any variable, you can say, which you might have been defined using @API. So if it is pending to be updated, that is, if any value has not been assigned to it, you can check for it. Means your LWC will be checking for it if it has been assigned. If it has been assigned, then it will move forward. Otherwise, it will wait for it to get assigned. After the value has been assigned to the public property, then it will move and the parent component will be inserted into the DOM. After the parent component being inserted into the DOM, then the connected callback will be called on the parent component. Then parent component will be rendered. After parent component is rendered completely, then the constructor will be called on the child component. And after the constructor is called on the child component, then the public property to be updated. This one I have repeated twice. I'll modify this because later on you will have the access to this PPT. You can go through it and understand it. Understand it much more better. So yes, then on the child also it will check for the public property to be updated, and then the child component will get inserted into the DOM. Then again, after the child component gets inserted into the DOM, connected callback lifecycle hook will be called on the child component. Then the child component will be rendered, and then rendered callback called on child component, and then rendered callback will be called on parent. So I'll make it very easy. I'll repeat it again. So suppose you are having two components, one is parent and another is child. So currently we are talking about three lifecycle hooks only, that is the constructor, connected callback, and the last one is rendered callback. So first of all, the first thing is to understand is first is constructor being called, then the connected callback is being called, and the last one is the rendered callback. So this is the sequence. Now between parent and child, what will be the sequence? Like which life cycle hook will be called first on the parent, or which life cycle hook will be called on the child first? So first of all, I'll skip part whatever is happening in between. I'll just tell you about the sequence of life cycle hook. That is, first constructor is being called on the parent. So I'll just say constructor on parent, then connected callback on parent, then constructor on child, then connected callback on child, then rendered callback on child, and then at last rendered callback on parent. So see, you can understand, like if you are having a component, that then component needs to be rendered. Rendered means it needs to be loaded completely to have all the data visible on the screen properly, right? So if parent component is consisting of the child component, so it needs to understand that child component needs to render first, right? So child component will be getting rendered first, then the parent component will be rendered later. But in case of constructor and connected callback, it will called, or it will get it will get called first on the parent, then on the child. So the sequence goes on: constructor on parent, connected callback on parent, then constructor on child, then connected callback on child, then rendered callback on child, and then rendered callback on parent. So I hope you might be understanding little bit things now. Don't worry, we'll discuss more about it, about the things that public property pending to be updated or parent inserted into the DOM. So earlier we discussed that there are events when these are called. So constructor is called when the LWC is getting created. So this is the created function. Then we will check for public property. Then whenever the parent component will be, sorry, I will just skip the parent and child component for now. I'll just talk about the events. Okay, so when the component is being created, the constructor is getting called. Then when the component is being inserted into DOM, then the connected callback is called. And when the component is being rendered, then the rendered callback is called. So that's the basic thing. Now you might be wondering, as per of interview, in interview the question may be asked like what action do they do, what flow they follows, that is this flow you can explain, then on what action or what event which callback is being called, and the last one, the most asked question is, if you are having a parent component and child component, then on which component rendered callback will be called first. So rendered callback will be first called on child and then on parent component, but it is opposite for constructor and connected callback. So you need to remember this. Now we'll move forward, and please, if you have any doubt, let me know in the comment section. I'll explain it more, or maybe provide you with any material or anything. But I hope if you will uh, check out this flow, it will be very understandable for you. Just give it some time. I know at first it could be overwhelming for you, but just give it some time. Yes. Now we will be talking about Salesforce flow when a component being removed from DOM. So now we are talking about disconnected callback. So earlier we have covered three lifecycle hooks, that is constructor, connected callback, and rendered callback. But now if we talk about disconnected callback, so when it is being called, so it is being called whenever a component is being removed from DOM. Now, so you are clear with the event, its name is also suggesting that is disconnected, and it's just reverse for connected callback, that is the component is being inserted into DOM, then the connected callback, but if it is being removed from the DOM, then disconnected callback. Now in terms of parent component and child component, so first of all it will be called on the parent component, that is first parent component will be removed and then the child component will be removed. So first disconnected callback will be called on the parent and then the disconnected callback will be called on the child. Okay. So if on this like on disconnected callback also, you were asked with a question that if you are having two components, that is the parent component and child component, then on which the disconnected callback will be called first. So you can say it will be called first on the parent and then on the child. So let's move. Now we'll be discussing about each life cycle hook in detail. Our first is constructor. So the constructor hook is called immediately right after the component instance is created, before it is being inserted into the DOM. So this we have already covered, right, in the flow. So now the whatever we will be describing, move forward in this video, it should be very easy for you to understand, because most of the things I have already covered using that flow, because it is very easy to understand using that flow instead of using with this you know text. Yeah. So now when to use this constructor. So this life cycle hooks that fires whenever a component instance is created. In this life cycle hook, whenever in this lifecycle hook, whenever we are using it in a component, we must call super function in the first line, and at that point the component properties won't be ready yet. That is the public property which we were talking about. So no properties will be having any value assigned or any declaration properly. Okay, then if we talk about it flow, it flows from parent to child. That is, it will be called first in on the parent component and then on the child component. Valency in or a component of constructor. Then there is a in it event in or a component which we can consider as the equivalent of constructor, but we need to be aware that in or a component flows from child to parent, just opposite of the LWC component. So yeah, let's go to our example. So that's how you can declare your constructor in the LWC. That is first constructor, and then you need to call super function in first line, and then we are just writing any message or log. So whatever step or logic you need to write, then you can do that. So now we'll be discussing about connected callback. So what exactly is the connected callback? Connected callback is called once the component is being inserted into the DOM, and it is a very essential life cycle hook for initializing data or performing operations when whenever the component is being first loaded. So if you are having any property that you want to have a constant value across the LWC, you can define it here or even on the top. But you can initialize any kind of data here, and even if you are having a sequence of calling your functions in the next lines, you can use the connected callback in that case. So now if we talk about when should we use connected callback, whenever you want to it fires when a component is being inserted into the DOM and the component properties are ready while the constructor is called. Then any property was not ready or defined or having any value, but when the connected callback is called, all the properties are ready, but the child component's properties will not be ready because it flows from parent to child. So it can fire more than once, and it flows from parent to child. It helps in fetching data from an apex controller or any other resources, and there is no equivalent in of connected callback in aura components. Now let's check out its example. So that's how you can just define it. And the way I was saying that we can call any other functions in or any other method in your JS file of LWC. So you can declare it here. Suppose I'm first calling this dot fetch data, then I can call this dot set data. So whatever logic is written in this dot fetch data, that is the fetch data function, first that will be run, then it will return back to connected callback, and then this dot set data, set data function will be running. Now we'll move forward and talk about rendered callback. So the rendered callback method is called after the components template has been rendered, and it allows you to perform any additional logic after the component has been added to the DOM. So first the LWC is created, then constructor is called, then the component is being inserted into DOM and the connected callback is being called. Now the components has been rendered, then the rendered callback is called. So we can perform any logic, that is manipulation to the DOM or apply styles dynamically. So when to use this rendered callback? So again, it fires when a component rendering is done, and it helps in manipulating DOM elements such as setting focus on element and any applying of styles dynamically. It can be fired more than once, and it flows from child to parent. So while discussing the life cycle flow, we discussed that first the rendering of child component will be done, then rendered callback of child will be called, and then the rendered callback of parent will be called. And if we talk about equivalent of rendered callback in Aura components, then there is after render method of the custom rendered file, but this event flows from child to parent too. So only the constructor one is different. Like there is a difference from LWC and the Aura component. In LWC, constructor is flow from parent to child, but in it is flow from child to parent in Aura components. Let's move forward. So the example of rendered callback is there. So you can see we are calling that my element class, and we are changing its focus. So we can set its focus and even use it for apply any style dynamically. So now we'll talk about disconnected callback. So this lifecycle hook method is called when the component is being removed from the DOM, and we can use this hook to clean up any resources or remove event listener or even cancel ongoing on call API calls. So like you can understand that even if LWC we are sending an API call, but before closing our LWC we need to stop that API call or cancel that. So you can just clean that up using the disconnected callback and cancel that API call. When should we use it? So whenever we want to cleaning up event listener or canceling long running tasks, we can use it. Reset component state whenever it is no longer part of the DOM. It is also can be fired more than once. It flows from parent to child, and the equivalent of disconnected callback in Aura component is unrender methods of the custom render file, but it also flows from child to parent but not parent to child like LWC. Okay. And its connected sorry its example is disconnected callback, and we can use clear timeout this dot timer. Suppose we have set some timer, but when the component is we are finished working with the component and we want to remove it from the DOM, we can use this function. Now the last callback we'll be talking about the error callback. So this method is called if there is an error in the component child component or during rendering callback to handle errors gracefully and prevent our component from crashing unexpectedly. So if this callback will throw error, it will prevent our component to crash. So we can use this error callback there. So when we should use this, it captures error that may happen in all the descendant components lifecycle hooks. That is during the child component working. That is when the first child constructor will be creating, called, then child connected callback will be called. So then if it is throwing any error, then it will throw, then we can use this error callback method. So it will help us to log or notifying users if an issue without affecting the UI experience. And its example is error callback, and this is the error. And stack is nothing but to give you the log, or you can say the state or the place where which this error will be occurring from. So it will give you that location, and error is exactly what error will be coming up. So you can use this to show toast or log in case if any error occurs of a child component. So that's it for this video. I hope you learn something, you like it, and if you do, please like the video, subscribe the channel, and let me know in the comment section if you have any doubt. And don't worry, I'll be pasting the link of this PPT in the in the description box. So yeah, thank you, stay tuned.